And good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on FCT Brief. We are live from our studio here in Abuja. Today, we are zooming in on the deadly floods that have once again devastated Niger State, leaving a trail of death, destruction, displacing thousands, and raising critical questions about Nigeria's climate resilience. As emergency responders continue to assist the victims, experts warn that what the country is witnessing is not just a natural disaster, it is a symptom of a much larger crisis, which is climate change. In the heart of Nigeria's middle belt, raging waters have swallowed about 3 communities in Niger State. Roads have been washed away, farmlands destroyed, and for many, the only option now is to flee. At least close to 200 lives have been lost, with thousands more displaced in the states. But this is not an isolated tragedy. It is part of a larger trend.
Rainfall patterns across the Sahel and Middle Belt have become more intense. Niger State's geography makes it vulnerable. Climate change is amplifying the risk as more rainfall over shorter periods is causing rivers to burst their banks faster than communities can prepare. Climate data shows that Nigeria is warming faster than the global average, with annual floods increasing in frequency and severity over the last decade. Poor urban planning, blocked drainage systems, and deforestation worsens the impact. Back in Niger State, the waters may have receded, but the scars, fiscal, emotional, and economic impact will remain. And unless urgent action is taken at all levels, these floods may become a recurring nightmare. For more on this, let's speak with the Executive Director, Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, Dr. Michael Terugwa David, who joins us live in the studio this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. But before we jump right into the conversation, let's join our correspondent, our senior reporter in Niger State, Chenami Bami, to give us more updates on this development. Chenami, it's good to speak with you this morning. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Leah.
All right. What more can you tell us? What is the recent development in that place? And can you also update us on the relief efforts and also the recovery plans so far in Niger State, specifically in the Mokwa region?
All right. Good morning once again. It's a bright day here in Mokwa. People are going about their various activities because Mokwa is a major route for connecting the southwest and northwest part of Nigeria. You can see the thoughts and moving across the country. People are scared to it because not only have they lost loved ones, they are still looking for loved ones. 4 days after the tragic incident, there are still many people that are still listening up until this time. So the record say that at least over 180% bodies have been recovered. But that's a far cry from the number of deaths so far, because I spoke to a young man this morning and we seen a subsequent report. He lost 9% are still missing in his house. They found 21 or so 8 more are still missing. And that's a story for so many people that you can see around you. They just come here every day. This place is beginning to smell. I'm right here at the scene of the incident. You know, over there was where the water broke from. And I'm standing right now on almost a 1 kilometer stretch of drainage. What is completely consumed by the over the space of 1 kilometer. You know, so it tells you that first the problem has been erosion. You know, poly erosion. There's no proper drainage in this place for the waters to go through. I think the impact, even if there was flooding, the impact would have been minimal if the drainage is big enough. You know, it's because the water did not find proper channel. Like I said, 1 kilometer stretch of drainage, but it's too small. The canal is too small for the water to go through, you know, and I think it's a major conversation that needs to be taken care of. Talking about aid has not reached these people. It's quite unfortunate to mention that aid has not reached people. Just yesterday, I went to the camp, to the IDP camp where they're supposed to set up. Nothing is going on there. These people, I mean, I come here every day and then I speak to these people. They're taking shelter with relatives that are living around. So they come to this place every day just to see if they can find something. People are digging the ground here, looking for dead bodies and looking for belongings that they can hold on to, you know, as they try to keep the peace.
Yeah, Chademi, if you can hear me. Can you help us also with the situation at the IDP camps, considering the extent of devastation? I guess a lot of people must have relocated to the IDP camps. What is it like out there? You talked about aid not being available. What is the situation at the various IDP camps for the survivors? All right,
it's contrary to, it's actually a contrary situation. People are not in the camp. There's a primary school just a few meters away from this place that was supposed to use as a camp. But there's nobody there. The people say nothing is there, so there's no point going to stay there. You know, they'd rather just go and hang up somewhere, and then they come back here every morning looking for either a dead body or for a belonging. So there's no camp set up, and I think it's calls for immediate actions.
Well, Chenemi, if you're saying this, we've heard several people. I also heard Senator Musa Sani in the National Assembly say he sent some donations to Niger State to some. I can't really place a number on that yet, but I know donations have been coming in respect to that. So what is actually, you know, blocking this aid from reaching the people that are in need? Is it that the roads are blocked, or what exactly is going on? All right. We'll come back to you shortly for more on that. But Mr. David, let's come back to you. Despite, you know, early warnings on this flood, we still experience devastation on a year-to-year basis. Tell us, why does it seem like we're not prepared and we're always caught off guard each year?
First, my condolences to families that have lost loved ones. And it's really unfortunate that it's a recurrence decimal, starting from the 2012 floods, and then we fast forward to the 2022, and then even last year, and now what we have. The rains have not even come yet, and we're already witnessing this level of devastation. Unfortunately, our disaster preparedness is very, very poor. Disaster preparedness and response. It's why the affected persons are complaining. They don't have shelter, they don't have food. And when there is disaster like this, one of the first things that is impacted is water supply. You know, water gets polluted. So at this moment, this is nearly 4 or 5 days, and we are still complaining that relief materials have not reached, you know, thousands of people who have been impacted. And this is very sad for our country. We can do better with disaster response, especially knowing that every year we would have flooding. We cannot change it. Climate change is here. In as much as people have been blaming dams and all, which it's very important that I state here categorically, that even international media got the reportage of this crisis wrong. A lot of people said the Kainji Dam was opened. Oh. The Kainji Dam is far from Mokwa. There's over close to 100 kilometers. Oh. Now, if it was actually Kainji Dam, if the Kainji Dam is open, actually, the spillway is on the body of the river Niger itself. It doesn't spread to communities, right? And you are talking of about 2 billion cubic meters of water if that actually came out, we will not be talking of what we saw, right? Yeah. So the closest is the Mokwa Dam, is the Jeba Dam, that is less than 30 kilometers from the community. Yeah. Early this year in April, there was flooding there. Yes, the Mokwa Dam was open, water was released. But what happens is that it doesn't get to the Mokwa town itself. It is the farmlands, the Fadama lands that are close, to the dam that gets flooded. So, but in this case, we have this situation. And scientifically, it is climate change. There are several factors that would have contributed to this.
Okay, while I would like the aspect of climate change, but a lot of time also the human inaction is responsible for most of this disaster in Nigeria. Yes. Like our reporter actually stated, he said the canal is not deep. Then you wonder, between last year and this year, what has the state government been doing to desilt and to ensure that this canal is dredged the more? And not just in Niger State. There's a situation all over Nigeria. What are the governments doing to ensure that the canals are desilted? You come to Abuja, for instance, you see refuse dumped just by the river bank, which is potential to transport all those debris to block the various canals. So what exactly is happening? Why are we not always prepared?
Well, I mean, I'm not a government official.
Hold that thought, sorry, because we need to take this quick commercial break now. Don't go anywhere. We still have more for you on the program. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're glad to have you back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and this is FCT Brief. We're still discussing flood crisis with climate change in focus, and we still have with us Michael Terugwa David in the studio. You were talking about something before we went on the break.
Yes. Every state in this country have the State Emergency Management Agency. So the question is, how much was budgeted for disaster response, disaster preparedness? Every state government needs to take this as a serious call. It is not longer one of those things. Disasters will happen. When you look at states that hitherto would not experience flooding, they do. Adamawa last year. You talk of Niger because the river is there. I mean, and this is happening like every now and then. 2 weeks ago, there was rains in Makurdi, and most parts of the state were flooded. So what are the state emergency management agencies doing? Are they just relaxing and waiting for disasters to happen so they can come and share palliatives, which they enjoy doing? That should not be the case. At the beginning of the year, we got a flood outlook, which clearly stated that nearly 26 states we experienced flooding this year. And we are just relaxed, waiting for it to happen so that the states will start crying to the federal government, right? So what the states really need to do is to wake up. For Niger State, this flooding, for example, NEMA issued a warning. Few days that there would be flooding with the amount of rain that was expected around Niger. Although they didn't pinpoint a specific area, which is what climate change does, right? So, but now it happened, and up till now, several days after, there is no response. This is very poor.
Well, we'll still come back to you, but let's speak with our senior reporter in Niger State. Chenemi, I was asking you earlier why you said aid has not reached the people that are in need. What is NEMA doing? What is the government, the state government doing? Because we hear that ecological fund has been released to the governor, and yet you're saying that aid is yet to reach the people. Also, donations have been made. What exactly is going on in that regard?
All right, so just I believe there's either some bureaucracy issues or there's inadequate preparations, for disaster. Now, Nigeria has a policy concerning disaster, the Nigeria's National Disaster Management Policy. And part of what the policy addresses is that there must be preparations on ground. So it's not when disaster happens that you start making frantic efforts. There should be certain things on ground. For example, there should be plans to provide immediate water. Water is one of the things that people that easily gets polluted, or people lack easily once there is disaster problems. There should be beddings, bed sheets, mattresses available, readily available, things that could easily be moved into these areas from day one of the issue. So I think there's just inadequate preparations. And concerning the donations that are being made, the Niger State government put out an official account where people could send donations to, but it's not just working. I think the government or the officials, those in power, needs to do more, especially especially NEMA. From day one, we were here from day one, and then they did some assessment, got figures of the number of those affected, and they're still doing that. Well, I was there yesterday. There wasn't any official yesterday up until this morning. I think they really need to come up on this. People are suffering in this place. I can tell you for free. I've been here for the past 2 to 3 days. I've been around, and I'm seeing what these people are going through every day. So I think that those in authority need to speed up. There's a political funds for states like Niger State, states that have water bodies going around and then that cause disaster. It's imperative that proper infrastructure should be built to avoid issues like this, so that 10 years time we're not reporting the same issue. So okay. If a proper body erosion had been if a proper drainage had been built around this particular area. Now, this is not the first time that Mokwa is in the news. Mokwa has been in the news for body erosion. Okay,
Chelemi, just help us. Just help us understand. We learned also that there is so much stench around that area. What exactly is the state doing to ensure that we don't have another outbreak of disease? Because bodies are buried inside the soil and all that. Help us to understand, is there disinfection, massive disinfection going on around Mokwa that axis?
I think we've lost connection with him. Well, let's speak to you, Mr. David.
Yes.
Let's talk about the real issue behind this now, which is climate change and Nigeria's response to that. We see that Nigeria may be lacking behind the response to climate change and reducing these gas emissions that may be causing this rainfalls and, that result in flooding. How would you say the government should, respond better and faster to this emerging challenge?
So, as a matter of fact, Nigeria's contribution to greenhouse emissions is very small. It's actually very, very small. We are contributing nearly, very insignificant amount of greenhouse gases. But we will not say that is not contributing to the overall global emissions, As we know, even the entire Africa contributes just barely within 3 to 4% of the global, greenhouse gas emissions. So what we need to do on our part, we are not the cause of this problem, but we are very vulnerable to climate, the impact of climate change. And some of the vulnerability is what you're already seeing. So what we need to do is to build resilience. That is climate adaptation. Climate adaptation, building resilience and helping our people, to be so. I just look at the people already moving around, looking for their daily bread already. And I will just say, Nigerians are very resilient. Already they are coming out of, this disaster. So, but it's very important for me to state the scientific cause of some of this flooding that you see. So with global warming, the global temperature is increasing. And from your basic primary or secondary school knowledge, the higher the temperature, the more the rate of evaporation, right? So you have a lot of water moving from the water bodies, from the sea, from everywhere, up into the atmosphere. And that's why what happens now is if it rains, you step out in a few minutes, you don't find anything. Everything is evaporated. So the water gets to the atmosphere and forms as rain. So the question is, why is it not falling down? Why is it not coming? Because of global warming, that process of condensation takes longer. So the atmosphere has the capacity to hold more water. So you have, like, you are talking of 100,000 swimming pool held up there, you know, and that is also causing what we call dry spell. So we'll notice that it takes maybe after 2 weeks, and then when the rains come, they drop very heavy, right? And that's exactly what is responsible for this. But also human cause. Let's talk about our land use. When water comes onto the soil, there is first what we call infiltration. So if your soil is completely bare, there's no protective cover, there are no trees, there's no vegetation, nothing. What happens is that quickly the very strong raindrops blocks those pores, right? So water does not infiltrate into the soil. Everything is on the surface, and that is where you have runoff. So looking at the topography of that place, that community, and many other places, you have that very speed and sharp runoff. And then the drainages that should ordinarily convey this water to a safe place are blocked or too small, and people have also encroached and built very close to it, which is the case in this place. You will see your reporter there saying that the drainage is very small, but when you see the channel where the water passes, you see that allowance that people should have given, you know, there's houses, shops, and all. And that's what led to this level of destruction.
Okay. Chenemi, if you're there, just take this last one from us. Considering the extent of destruction and death, is there massive fumigation going on in that area at the moment to ensure we don't have another outbreak of disease?
There's actually nothing of sort right now going on. People are trying to help themselves by digging the ground themselves, looking for a dead body, and this place begins to smell. There's no form of fumigation going here. There's no form of, in fact, even the rescue effort is being done by the locals in this place. So nothing as such. We don't have emergency workers anywhere around in sight. You know, so I think it's proper that those that should be handling this, the agency should take this into consideration. If not, we might have an outbreak of another disease in this place because of devastation.
Well, quite an unfortunate one there. We must say thank you so much for your contributions on the program this morning, Chenemi. We'll have to let you go to attend to other matters. Thank you so much. Well, back to you here. You've heard from our correspondent. Even the immediate response is low from government and, you know, agencies that should be in it. How would you advise communities to help themselves in cases like this, and also preventive measures, because we know that some of these people live at the riverbanks, which is prone to these floods? How would you say that government can sensitize them to better protect themselves and also respond when emergencies like this happen?
You know, every year NIMET would give the seasonal rainfall prediction. And my concern always is that it's at the federal level. We have a press conference in Abuja, and it ends there. There's some level of downscaling, but it doesn't get to, you know, many of these communities. So first of all, we need to map up where are the hotspots, where are the most vulnerable hotspots. So we can consider this community as one of the hotspots, right? So when there is seasonal rainfall prediction and floods are expected, the people must be sensitized to understand that they are at risk. Their lives are at risk. We must get that culture of land use planning. It's not everywhere that is land for habitation. There should be land for farmlands, and then there should be land for settlements. You don't go building a settlement on a flood plain. It is a responsibility of government, urban planning and all, to ensure that people don't build their houses on flood plains, because they are endangering their lives, their livelihood, and everything. And I mean, even the farmlands, we are looking at 10,000 hectares of farmlands on that stretch, because a lot of the people are engaged in sugarcane farming and rice, right? And this flooding is not just the people. We have not checked the impact on the farms, because people are already just making, you know, preparing the soil and planting, all of that is gone. There is no form of insurance for these farmers, so it is the same cycle. And the most unfortunate thing is that they are smallholder farmers. So it is their investment, it is their livelihood that is completely, destroyed.
Now, that brings me to another issue. Let's look at the adjoining states or even community.
Yes.
Now, Niger State is hit. And one state that is very close, that is like a confluence, we actually call it the confluence state, is Kogi State. Now, how prepared are these people? Usually when you have this kind of massive flooding, you have almost Lokoja submerged.
Yes.
It happened last year, it happened the previous year. So they're not exempted. Now, are these people really thinking that, today, the other day it was Maiduguri,
yes,
now it is Mokwa.
Yes.
Which state is next? You talked about planning. Not every place is for habitation. You go to a particular place in Lagos State, for instance. That community is on the floodplain. When the Ogun River is released, it overflows that place towards Mile 12, Owode axis, and all that place. Every year it does happen.
Yes.
But we don't seem to understand that you must not build on floodplain. So, can we?
Unfortunately, these people buy this land, and they will tell you they got approval even from government officials to build, which shouldn't be the place, be in the first place. And when you look at Lokoja, if maybe when your reporter is returning, you can pass through Lokoja and see the tons of waste. In fact, the whole of that river, Niger, has been turned into a waste dump. And you see the tons of waste around, the Lokoja axis. And that's why once the rains, we've not even gotten to the peak of the rains. The rains are just coming, and now we are experiencing this. When we get to July, August, what will be the situation? What should we expect? But unfortunately, we still have people who are living at the bank of these rivers, right? And when it happens, all the primary schools around the Lokoja, Abuja Expressway become the homes, for the IDP camps. And then we send our children away. We are talking of out of school children, but this becomes but the issue for me is this has become annual, and we don't seem to have any plan yet. It will not stop, right? But we should save lives by responding properly and planning properly. And I support you 100% when you call out the state government, because they have a responsibility. Waste management should not be the responsibility of the federal government. Simple drainage system should not be the responsibility of the federal government alone, right? Urban planning, is that not the responsibility of states? Why do you allow people to build on floodplains? The best way to prevent disaster is avoidance. And avoidance simply means avoid this place, don't build here, build on higher grounds, and all. A lot of people will talk about all the cultural things, they've been here for several years, but climate is changing. So when we say global warming, we are actually saying global warning. And it is warning to everyone, Nigerians and citizens alike.
Well, I hope that the right people hear you this morning. Thank you so much for your contributions on the program. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's our package this morning. We will now hand you over to our Lagos studio where Veronica and the rest of the crew are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.
All right. Thank you, Ashamama and Tijesu, for that interview.